guys, Miss here with another Grand Archive video. This time we're just going to be doing a tier list for champions. So how I've done this is all the 4 champions that can go to level 3, I've got them broken down by element, whereas the lineage break champions I just have them individually just to make this list a bit easier. Also, S tier champions are strong decks, strong champions, but also have a high skill level requirement to pilot correctly. A tier are strong decks but more of a linear game plan, or B are weaker decks but a strong pilot can definitely get results with, and then C are kind of your weakest decks but playable, and D just garbage where you're just not gonna be able to string many wins together. So let's get started. Okay, so Alan, most likely the wind variant of Alan probably sees play. I'd probably have that in B tier. It's a weaker deck, but if piloted well, can produce results. So I think it's a solid B tier list. Fire Sylvie, I think at the moment is C tier. It's a weaker deck and it just struggles. It can use the fire engine of getting to level 3 quickly, but just doesn't have the right pieces to make it work, or yet the fire beast just don't provide, I guess, the same sort of resistance as the wind or water beast, especially with the water card that allows you to do damage per their defense value rather than their attack value. So I'll put Fire Sylvie in the C. Fire Lorraine I think is a very strong deck, very linear, very easy to pick up. The fire mid-range might be a little bit more difficult to play, but still is rather linear. The Ensol package, super straightforward. You have one game plan, rush to level 3, play Ensol. Post the rule change, it's still rush to level 3, play Ensol, and then just use your attacks in the subsequent turns where you've got 6 swords in the bin and you're just swinging for 10 plus each turn. Very linear, strong deck. Rye, depending on which deck. If it's Arcane Rye, I actually think that's a very strong deck, but hard to pilot, especially when to lose cards to banish the arcane, or to when to clear the board, when to maintain card advantage. It's a hard deck to pilot, the arcane variant, whereas the Erupting Rhapsody Rye is very linear, and it's probably one that people pick up. It's where you don't even go to arcane and you just go for the Ember Song, Erupting Rhapsody, Fireball sort of combo. For that, I'd probably put it in A tier just because there's the 2 fire variants, but I would put it ahead of Fire Lorraine. Actually, no, behind, because you're gonna win. Fire Lorraine's gonna win most of those games head to head. Fire Xander, similar to the Fire Lorraine and Fire Rye. I'd actually even put the Xander ahead of the Rye. Very linear gameplay, similar to Fire Lorraine, but then you've got the different sort of finishing where you can play Arthur, play your Poison Dagger, have multiple units that ping for 2 free damage, a few instances, and obviously you got Juggle Knives as well. You've got the big attacks, Rending Flames. You can speed run to level 3 and then do some Luxem packages. Linear, so like overall Fire is very linear. You can get strong decks, you can get wins easy. They are very beginner friendly because of the game plan. So I'd have them all A tier. Strong decks, but straightforward. Merlin, I would also have in B tier. I'll put it behind Alan because I think an Alan deck can probably beat Merlin's. They're usually fire and they're playing that Erupting Rhapsody, Ember Song Fireball package. I did see a Merlin deck that had a unique take. It was more unit based, but I think Merlin's a solid BT deck. I like Alan ahead of Merlin. Tristan is garbage, which I hate because it is a hero I do like. I do like Assassin, and she's definitely spicy, but she's just not. You just would rather play Xander level 2 than Tristan at the moment. You're not going to get many wins with Xander. Water Eye, to be honest, I want to put it in D tier 2. Out of respect to Rai, I'll put it C, but it doesn't have a big end game. It takes too long to get. You can get to Arcane, and then you've got Arcane Blast and Erratic Bolt, but it's just inconsistent. You just don't have the game, and I think it's of the weakest of the Rais. I'd have Wind probably in the middle when we get to it, but Water Rai, yeah, definitely C tier. And I actually probably prefer Fire Sylvie over Water Rai. Water Sylvie, I'd have that the mid-tier Sylvie. I'd have it ahead of both Alan and Merlin. If played correctly, maintaining the board, recovering life, obviously has the payoff card of having your giant tortoises and your blue slimes attack with their defense rather than their attack, and can do massive amounts of damage. So I'll definitely have Water Sylvie as B tier. Harder to pilot, but can get wins, and can pull up upsets just because of that big turn potential. Water Xander is a very strong deck, very hard to pilot. I think one of the strongest decks in the game piloted correctly. It can withstand a lot of early aggression, and when it gets to Luxem and it just starts revealing cards, it is a nightmare to beat, and it's kind of hard to beat. You had moments with Fire Lorraine with the Ensol combo, but now with Water Xander, without the ability to do 25-30 damage in a turn, you get that Luxem lock, it's kind of game over. It's a slow grind. I don't know how this deck will do in a best of 3, maybe, especially like at the moment all the tournaments are on Discord, so it's a bit hard to get to play quickly. Very control orientated, very grindy, a very strong deck, and the people that do pilot it well, there is a big difference between them and other players, and it shows. And it's just, it's not fun to play. I couldn't think of anything worse than a Water Xander mirror. Wind Lorraine, I'd have A tier. I'd probably have it at the strongest of the A tiers, just because it's linear in what it does. It puts out units, your Phalanx Captains, your Banner Knights to buff. You've got a strong board and you push a lot of damage. But it's not a hard deck to pilot, so for that I'm going to put it as A tier. Super strong deck. Recommend it for people that want to play competitive games, but also are newer and want a deck that's can win and isn't too hard. There is a difference between an experienced Wind Lorraine player into a newer Wind Lorraine player. The one with experience will be making the better exchanges. And when to prioritize what units to save, how much to commit to the board, but it's still a relatively easier deck to pilot. Wind Rai, I'll have it slightly better than Water Rai just because I value the enlightenment counters with the power overwhelming and potential. Deck Rai, outside of the fireball damage, the fire package, is hard to close out games. For this reason, I don't see Rai as a weaker deck where a strong pilot can consistently get results with this deck, and for that reason I'm having it as C tier. I might be biased to Fire to keep Fire Sylvie out of these decks, but I just feel even Sylvie's got the Ember Song Rhapsody package and can throw a Fireball, so I just have it in front of those two decks. Water Lorraine I have as another very strong deck. I have it behind Xander. Has the end soul potential, but once it gets to that late game can really get the most value out of those Crux cards. And because it needs to build to a late game and it can't race to level 3 like Fire Lorraine, it does have a higher skill ceiling. But players that can get the most out of this deck demonstrate how strong it is. And that's why I think the two water decks of Xander and Lorraine are the strongest decks, but also require the highest level of skill at the moment. Mordred, look, I'm gonna have him, I'll have him D as well. Like, I guess you can play Fire Mordred and it's probably better than D, but I just feel I don't want to leave Tristan by itself. Mordred might be another C tier. You just play Lorraine, it's a better level 2 ability, and then you've got potential of going to level 3 in Crux. Like, they're draft heroes, there's no point of playing it. Merlin and Alan have a very good ability. Alan's gaining 2 levels based on beast is strong, and Merlin's ability to eat floating memory, just taking that card advantage from your opponent and steadily leveling up. He's also strong in constructed and draft. Super strong in draft, pretty strong in construction. Wind Sylvie, I think, is a sleeper, and I'm gonna have it. I have a feeling that Wind Sylvie has potential to be an A or S tier deck. I feel it's not solved at the moment, and I'm gonna put it at the top of the B tier. There's something there. I think it's got the ability to get the most out of on enter triggers with all the blink abilities. So, you know, your Young Beast Bonder, Windstream Mutt, etc. Not solved, but definitely my dark horse of this tier list, and one I think that can crack into this S and A tier for Sylvie. I think it's got potential to be the strongest Sylvies. And then the last hero is Windxander. I'm also gonna put it in B. I'll put it at the back end of B. It is a very fun deck to play. It's probably one of the weaker Xanders. The ability to attack twice, the allies of the Bushwhack Bandit and Black Market Broker. So its ability to generate more prep counters than say Fire or Wind. But the problem is it does take a lot of setup. It's very hard to pilot and to get wins consistently. But when you do have your big turns, they are very rewarding. But I do think it is the weakest of the Xanders. So there's my list. The two water decks at the top, probably going to surprise a few people because I do play Fire nearly exclusively. But yeah, let us know what you think in the comments. Where would you change? What heroes have I got absolutely wrong? And if you want to debate me, come find me in the Discord. Also, if you like this sort of content, let us know. Like and subscribe and all that jazz. And see you in the next one. Cheers.